globally competitive or is not a sustainable system, we'll probably just be building a castle in the air or just be building in the sand. So we're going to look at how we as a country, we are going to build our economy such that it's not just competitive for our own market, it's globally competitive, especially in the wake of the Continental Free Trade Agreement in Africa. We need to have very resilient economies and economies that can compete to the world. That is the only way we can rise as a country and as a continent. And I currently have with me in studio Mark Jordan Sikanate, who is a senior research associate with Laurus Africa. Mark, you're welcome.
Thank you, and good morning to your viewers.
Good morning.
Your listeners, yeah, sorry.
Yes, we have viewers and listeners, so
okay.
It's in order. Good morning to you too. We'll be joined shortly by John Che, who is a financial analyst. And again, we're going to look at how we can build a globally competitive and inclusive economy. So, Mark, let me just ask you, maybe for a starter, we've asked this question several times, but let me ask it again. If you had to rate Ghana's current economy on a scale of 1 to 100, where will you put us and why?
Okay, so if we have to do a rating of Ghana's economy, right? I mean, first of all, let me put this I mean, we have various credit rating agencies who put.
Yeah, I know, but this is your personal rating, yeah.
Exactly. So this would be like my personal assessment, given our dynamic. So it might not necessarily follow what we have from these credit rating agencies. Mind you, they are looking at it from a credit and investment grade perspective, right? Well, if we are generally to look at Ghana's economy, right, and to rate it on a scale of 1 to 100, right, that's on a scale of 100%, I'll just probably give us something within the 50% and the 60% terrain, right? And for me, it is because one, despite our challenges, right, we still have that basic stuff, the basic resources that is required to drive the economy to a sustainable level. Talk of our natural resources, right? I find it very interesting that as a country we have key natural resources like lithium, gold, bauxite. These are very important resources, especially for lithium, given where the world is heading to, the talk around electric vehicles and more clean energy. Yeah, so given these natural resources, and I mean, Ghana has the labor as well, right? I mean, in Africa has on average, we have the youngest labor force globally, right?
We have a high population at 30 years even.
Exactly. So for me, these reasons, I mean, warrant such an assessment from me. So I'll give Ghana 55%. The 45% means some real way to go in the future. And I think most of our conversations today, our discussion today will help us understand the 45% gap in order to make our economy 100%. Yeah.
But if you were to do this rating, let's say 5 years ago, would you have still maintained the same figures?
5 years ago, it would have considerably be below the 55% that I'm even giving Ghana. And for me, I mean, so you need some macroeconomic downturns or improvements and recoveries can come from, I mean, for me, I look at it from two broader perspectives. One could come from the structural perspective where you are fundamentally doing something, right, to change the narrative so that the various issues and problems and challenges that led you to a particular downturn do not repeat itself as much as possible. And I look at it also from the cyclical perspective where you'll be looking at, okay, for instance, given the calculation of inflation, it makes sense that when it goes very high at a particular point, it will come down at another given period because of how the calculation is done, right? So this would be a cyclical trajectory. Now, where we are right now, I see a complement of these two. Some work from ourselves and the authority. We've kept interest rate very optimal to inflation levels. That has brought inflation down. Our FX side, despite BOG's intervention, they've also put in place structural reforms in the sector in order to keep FX sustainable in the economy. So, but about 5 years ago, it was difficult to pinpoint some of these reforms, and even if they were there or existent, they weren't enough to hold us. And I think one last thing I also say to buttress it is, for instance, take an example from the recent U.S. The conflict in the Middle East that really took oil prices to very high levels. We were trading at a point above 120 $120 per barrel, right? We faced similar challenge before, and you see what it led us to very high depreciation in our currency and stuff. We faced similar challenge years after, I think about 3-4 years after, and I would say we've been able to manage it fairly, right? So this warrants an improvement from maybe 5 years ago rating that I would have given to Ghana. Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, and maybe let me ask you again, I sometimes like to ask these very direct questions. A lot of people say that the country, we should give up. And that is not going to get better. Before we go into looking at how we can build our globally competitive economy, we have to be able to appreciate that and lay that and maybe clear that doubt. Because if we must give up, then we don't have to even have this conversation at all. Do you think, from where you sit, from your research point, you deal with the figures, do you think there's no hope for us?
I think to some extent, sometimes I do understand those statements, the give up statement, right? And I say that because, I mean, it is one seeing numbers. It's another thing seeing those numbers directly reflected in your day-to-day activity as a person, right? And to see those numbers reflecting the quality of life as a person. So if you are not seeing that, it makes it difficult for you to really believe the numbers. So sometimes, even with us who have access to the numbers and we see the numbers improving, sometimes we tend to question the numbers. We pause and really question the numbers, right? And so, I mean, one way or the other, it makes me understand and appreciate such statements that give up on the country, right? Because if you have a country where, I mean, to register business, despite the processes and everything laid down, you still see some cost implications, very high cost in doing business. It becomes difficult for you to understand, really appreciate the numbers. If you see inflation at 3%, and then a bank is charging you 15% for a loan, 13% for a loan, it will be difficult for you to understand the numbers, because then in your simple understanding, the bank probably might not be pricing in inflation well in their the cost of credit or the cost of money to the ordinary business or the ordinary Ghanaian. So given all this, I appreciate that statement. However, I don't think I will not encourage us to give up, right? Because when you really look at it on a larger time frame, you would see significant improvement in our dynamics. But I think that the staff's left is that really put in place the right structures to really harness the gains that we've made, so that the gains are not only seen in the lives of a few populace in the country. Yeah.
But even across the world, I mean, these problems we face, are they unique to us? if we look at it globally, the challenges we face that people think that because of that we should give up, is it unique to Ghana or even unique to Africa?
We have some unique and some not, because I think the unique ones are the structural ones that have really faced us for considerable period of time. You understand that we have one of the, uh, the youthful population in Africa, right? In the globally, the structural ones are the fact that we still have most of this population outside of work, right?
Yeah.
Unemployment, and when you even drill down behind the unemployment, the factors behind it, we are still a highly centralized economies in Africa, right? These are structural things that we face that really impede economic development for us as a country. If you have a country where for every single for quite basic business transactions, you always have to head to the central the central business district, which is Accra and probably Kumasi, and then maybe you go to the western Takoradi, go to the northern, and then maybe Tema. Even for outside these two enclaves, Accra and Kumasi, sometimes for the other ones, the other cities, they have to troop in Accra and Kumasi to get certain to be able to complete certain business agendas. So when you really look at these trajectory, these are structural and very unique to Ghana, right? However, the other ones, in terms of, let's say, high cost of living, high cost of borrowing, inflation, even currency dynamics, these are issues or challenges that other countries, or low productivity, these are issues and challenges that have been faced by other countries, and they've been able to successfully overcome. We all hail China in recent days about how it has really grown to become one of the biggest economies.
I consider even the world power.
Exactly, China didn't achieve all this or attain all this, but within a year or two, it took consistency and keeping their hands on very, I would say, to some extent difficult but very important policies and essential policies that have been able to turn their fortunes around. So I would say some structural and unique, but even with that, when you really check well, it could be solved by the non-structural challenges as well. Because when you take unemployment, if you really give the private man the platform, if government really give the private man the platform, or government really lay the solid foundation for private businesses to really thrive, I'm sure they will be able to really create great supply or production that would require this labor to be employed, right? And that will help us solve the structurally high unemployment situation that we face as a country. Poverty is also a structural challenge, but even to some extent, if we're able to deal with the non-structural ones, it will come to help us solve the unique and structural ones. Yeah.
Right, and then, it's good you bring in the example of China, because if we look at China as of, let's say, the 1970s, they're not doing too better than we were.
Yeah.
But just for, let's 70 till now should be about, let's say, about 50 years. Just within a space of 50 years, they've transformed the country drastically. And there were some intentional measures they put in place, which we can look at. So now we're going to look at the building of a competitive economy, the globally competitive one. Let's look at it now from, let's say, economics.
Okay.
Do you think, first, before going to the figures of economics, let's look at the economic model first. Do you think our economic model is working? I'm not too sure what our economic model is in this country. Whether we are practicing capitalism, whether we are practicing socialism, or a mixed capitalism and socialism, I'm not too sure. Maybe you are the economist, you can tell us. Do you think our economic model we are working with, because in China, before 70s, they were using a communism where everything was just closed, state-led. Then now I think they still maintain some level of communism, but then now they open up their economy really to capitalism, private sector-led, government stepping in from time to time, and today the economy is booming. Do you think our economic model should be something we should look at?
Yes, if we really want to improve from where we are as a country, it is a key thing that we really have to look at, because to date, even among professionals, right, we find it difficult to still, and I understand, I mean, these are school of thoughts, right? But at every point in time, I believe that as a country, we should be able to pause and then decide and take an action on a particular course of economic model that we really want to run with. I mean, given some of the challenges that I noted in my earlier submission, I think that, I mean, going straight and a strictly capitalist model come with significant challenges. So, what our governments and successive ones have tried to do is to be able to, in a way, blend it and the likes, right? But even with that, even with a blend, we haven't been fully able to harness like good benefits from it, right? Let me try and give example. I was, for instance, when you take our transport system, right? I think for most developed countries, right? For most developed countries, comparing between, let's say, London and then Accra, right? You would have a system like, let's say, a transport system, the commercial transport system, largely in the hands of the government, right? Yes, it will be in the hands of the government, but that doesn't crowd out the private sector. The government has like a significant oversight over that system. Why? Because it really helps improve movement, and then if you're able to improve movement and logistics in your economy, it goes to some extent to also improve business delivery, and that feeds into the numbers for most of these businesses. You still cannot tell, like, as a country, right, whether we have that particular sector in the hands of the government or in the hands of the private sector. Recently, government acquired about I think some Metro Mass buses, and I think just last week I was watching the news and I saw a number of them deployed in the northern side of the country. I think Bono and the rest. So even with that sector, you can't really tell the kind of whether we are fully capitalist in that sector or not. Well, what I would say is that we should be able to decide. Going fully capitalist will be difficult, and I'll say that because of the high poverty rate levels we have as a country. And so you need government to still have control over certain supplies like energy, right? You still need government to be a significant player in there so that it is priced well. But then we still have to ask ourselves,
isn't it possible to have the private sector lead it, but government regulates them?
Exactly. That's where I was heading to. Such that, and I think there's talks around ECG and privatization. Such that, well, even with what they do, it's a large scale energy production, right, and transmission. Can we look at various points of it and say that, okay, the private sector should take care of the distribution and then the revenue collection side? And trust me, it will help us, because I think it's clear that even current governments and successive ones haven't really been able to do well in terms of collection after distributing the energy to consumers, right? So maybe can we privatize?
What you're trying to say is that a lot of people use electricity for free.
Exactly. So can we privatize that segment and say that, okay, because I doubt any private sector man will watch. I'm here to use MTN's data bundle without paying for it.
Of course. You can do nothing to take it for free.
But I could put it to us that if it was managed by government, we would have had lapses in there where people use data bundles and not pay.
But I can think of the telcos which were managed by government previously. Who are using the phones for free?
And we see the cost of it to us as a people. We now have MTN having very significant, being a significant market player in there because of
I think recently they were listed as, I think, the most profitable business also in the country.
Yes.
Or I think they had the highest turnover or something in that
Yes, because MTN is growing its net profit by a double digit of at least 20% annually. Yeah. That's, I think, even the lowest of the top of my head. You get it. So can we really look at, the ECG is just one example, right? Even in the agri business space or the agricultural sector, can we have more private government partnerships, right? I think that's how we have tried to, that's how we've tried to model our economy. We are trying to bring the private sector in, but even with that, we are not able to be, we haven't been consistent in honestly telling ourselves that, are we really doing a private sector thing or a political sector thing? Because even the private sector that you choose to partner or you choose to select for a particular venture, it raises a question on whether that private sector man will still be in business when government goes out of power. You get it. So this uncertainty in terms of the model we are running, you realize I haven't been able to mention a particular model to you because it's clearly difficult to point out. At a point, we say we are doing private sector PPPs. At a point, government wants to come in and then, take over and manage. And I think we haven't really have a consistency in terms of where we are going as a country. And I think that is one of the reasons behind it, right?
Because I think that's a big problem.
Yes, because for instance, take a cocoa board. Under various, it depends on the government in power. The government in power determines where cocoa board sits. At a point, cocoa board was under Ministry of Agri.
Right, a different
and
ministry.
It moves to Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
You get it. So I was listening to a renowned engineer and a surveyor in Ghana space, right? And I noted how even in terms of urban planning and city planning, how it has moved from various ministries to the other over the years, right? So if you have a country and then we don't really have a clear guideline in terms of some of these things, right, it makes it difficult to really understand the kind of model we are running. But I think given the high number of unemployment in the country, it will be helpful. It will be helpful if we identify certain sectors that will need pure privatization and capitalism there, and then we identify some sectors that will need the socialist model to run in there, so that it helps move everyone along. Because one of the things you don't want to also end up with in developing your economy is ending up in a way where there is very high income disparities in the economy. That also becomes challenging. Yeah.
So you think that we should clearly delineate capitalism, but some aspects of the economy should still be managed by the government.
Yes.
I think that's what even the Chinese are doing. I mean, there are still some sectors still in the hands of government, but largely the economic activity is left in the hands of the private sector. Okay, so so then that means that now you're proposing that our economic model, we have to look at it, because it looks like now we don't have a clear-cut economic model.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the economics. Let's look at our figures. What can we start doing from our trade statistics, from our trading style, from our importation style? how can we change these to make us have that competitive economy we want globally?
I think we first have to look at even our taste and preferences as a people, right? I mean, if you wake up a day and then let's say I spend, let's say, a 200 cedis a day, right? And over 70% of that amount that I spend, the goods and services that I consume from that amount are not goods and services that are widely produced here in Ghana, then clearly I am not funding economic growth, right? Because what Ghana actually really will benefit from is the taxes on it, the VAT on it. But at the end of the day, the whole, because I'll buy, the distributor will need to import again. So at the end of the day, I'm actually funding and growing someone's economy. The true job will actually be created in another
different
economy.
country. Yeah.
So I think it will start from that end, right? We will have to really look at our taste and preferences as a people, and then we should deliberately.
But on this taste and preference, before you move on, do you think government can stimulate a change in this? I'm saying this because now I look at, I mean, I see you are nicely dressed in an African print. Maybe about 20 or 30 years ago, if you're coming in for a Saturday show, you'd have been in a suit. But I think that when government introduced the National Friday wear, and now this even corporate institutions started allowing for print. I mean, I typically wear print to the office if I don't have any very formal thing to do. Now, that was because there was a particular government which stimulated that. Now, this government, I saw they introduced the National Wednesday Fugu, but I think it fell in water. I'm not too sure of the success. I've not seen too much of it. Now, do you think that these things can be stimulated by government? Because if I stand on the African print, the African print has gotten good market because of a government policy that came.
So yes, government will also have a role to play in there, and you've noted a number of it, right? So, for instance, the Fugu thing.
Yeah.
I think I really support these African wear stuff, right? And I was telling a friend of mine says one thing about, I mean, the Western world, that they don't have a culture.
Yeah.
Now we have we have the African prints. We can boast of Fuku. What's their own? And I say their own is the suit.
Yeah.
Just because you are wearing it every day doesn't mean their own is probably the suit. They've just been able to really. So he was looking at culture in the sense that, oh, it is very unique, and then it's just one particular set of people wearing it.
But it's unique to them. They spread it across the
Exactly.
colonization.
It's just that it's really caught your eye to the fact that your boss says wear their outfit to the workplace. They've been able to help us understand.
No, Sugar, if Northern Ghana had colonized the entire world, maybe Fugu would have been a worldwide attack.
So I love that, and that's what I say. We have to be deliberate with it because, look, it's just recently that we have even our designers going into the sewing of suits, right? I remember about 5 years ago, I needed someone to sew a suit for me. And I went to my regular designer. I said, "Oh, wait, I mean to me, I can't do it."
Suit is not part of.
So it then prompted me that, it means every suit that I've been actually buying is actually imported. I'm growing someone's economy. I'm creating job in the creative industry of another person's economy. So we have to be really deliberate about it. Because this Fugu thing, imagine if I asked the person a straight question that if we had, and the person was a senior management, a member of it. So I asked the person, if we had a meeting on Monday and you saw me in Fugu, and how will you look at me, or how will you see me? Right? You think, man, you are not serious. That's what you say.
And even sadly, though, tie your intelligence to what you're wearing.
Exactly.
So this guy's not smart.
It's a Monday. You see, that's the mindset we have. So we have to really, sometimes when we say these things, and make it look. People think, oh, it's just basic, and I think we expect you to be saying very strange economic stuff. But you see, the basics of economic is demand and supply, right? That's what really creates the momentum, right? So if it becomes something that not necessarily just Fuku, but any other African prints, the
any traditional
kaftans,
work,
right?
yeah.
And if it becomes something that you can wear, the demand already is created for it. And to some extent, you might not necessarily need 24-hour economy. And I said, might not necessarily need it in order to create that environment, to push people to start producing 24-hour. Because then there is the demand for it. You get it? So I think our taste and preference is something we'll have to look at. Government will have to look at it. And I think successive governments and even the recent one is doing well in terms of consciously promoting some of these things and our tourism and culture side, right? And that is one, because I mean, if there's the demand for it, the people who have to sow it, right? If there's demand for it, we've automatically created some employment in the northern, because I mean they are really known for it, right? We've automatically created some great employment in that side. Someone can, a large scale private sector guy can say, okay, fine, we're going to set up a fugu factory there.
Which I was foreseeing happening, especially when they declared that we're going to have Wednesday. Because if it was working, you can't wear one fugu for the
exactly
entire year.
You need
exactly more. So each person may need like 5-6 calculated across board, everybody in the country. That's like a huge business.
That would even also help to drive down the price to some extent, because then the demand is there. We'll have the private sector guys come in there to create the supply, and that will help to beat down the price. And so maybe if you are buying it for like 1,000 cedis on average currently, as times move on, the price should be able to fall drastically, and then it makes it economically rational for everyone to get involved with it. So it is a really key line item we should look at. But you see, the challenge that has been with that aspect too is that sometimes you have to create, when you are beginning some of these things, you have to create incentives for the private sector, right? For instance, let's say if a private sector player says, I'm going into large scale production of fugu, you will need to incentivize that person, maybe in a form of taxes, in a form of other government support to the private sector in that regard. And also on our taste and preferences, what we have done as a country largely in successive years is to use taxes, right? Maybe we increase the taxes on, let's say we say when you import this canned drink, there's a particular tax that's a slap on it and stuff. But that hasn't really played that well for us, because whilst we try to do that, we haven't created the domestic supply yet. So we ourselves end up still importing it and still paying the taxes, and then we get used to it, and it looks like we don't care about the taxes, and then it turns it into just an economic or a finance gain for the government, because yes, we'll pay the taxes and then you get a revenue. I think we will have to
rather cause hardship, because then now the price of those goods go higher. We don't have an alternative, so we must go for it.
Exactly. So we will have to consciously look at that, the taxation model, in other using it. We have to maybe leverage. I think right now social media is doing well in terms of changing people's narrative and thinking and mindset on certain things. So we'll have to take advantage of it, especially in this AI era, to really shape our thinking and our mindset, and hope that will be able to cause a structural change in terms of our taste and preference. Because we are doing well in terms of production recently, in the economy. I think manufacturing was a standout in terms of the industrial sector in Ghana's recent GDP numbers. Okay, but the question is that after the manufacturing, with the cost incurred and everything, is the local Ghanaian manufacturer able to really harness benefits from it compared to the foreign manufacturer, right, whose goods have been imported or has infiltrated the Ghanaian market? So we will have to really consider that as a country, and then hopefully make considerable headway from there. Yeah.
Okay, now beyond the economics or the economic model, let's look at technology. We've not been too good technologically. A lot of people still do things the very manual way. I think the last time we were having a conversation with somebody, I mean, I mentioned the name in the industry, where he was telling us that to this day, they're still in trying to bring out their findings. They have people who go and stand by a board to pick figures, do manual calculations to get some figures for us to give to the country. And that's something that in other countries, they are just machines. They just go and check the reading. It's 25. They announce 25. But here, someone's go and pick this, add it, strike an average. After the average, he has sent it somebody who also will add his figures to strike. So by the time it gets to us, even, we're not even too sure of the accuracy of the figures. Do you think that we would have to relook at our technological approach? Because again, we look back at our China and all the very developed countries. There's sophisticated technology. Now, even with transports, we are moving to the how do you call it? The self-driven cars. I mean, I remember when we were starting driving back in the day, they'll tell us that, oh, you must learn how to use a manual car. If you don't drive a manual car, you can't be a good driver. Even today, automatic cars are being phased out. Yeah. I mean, self-driven have come in. Do you think that we'll have to up our technology game in order to build or create a competitive economy?
Yes, we'll really have to do that. And I think the last time I noted, I was given an example and I noted my mom's business. Maybe I'll go back to it today too. I remember one of the things we're doing is to buy a lot of A4 sheets in terms of recording stuff, right? And then, I mean, the business runs a manufacturing side where they manufacture shampoo and air conditioner and the likes, right? So the quality control officer will have to go to production, use a paper, to be taken. And I sat down to calculate the cost of A4 sheet and the likes, and I was like, it's too much. You have laptops, you have computers, you even have your phones, right? Can we create Excel sheets that help you to record this? Because that's what we do, and then we print. Can we now have it on a soft copy, then they just work with it? Look, the kind of hurdle I faced. At a point, I nearly gave up. I was like, man, this is me just trying to help out. Yeah. Right. So
it means it looks like we like to do things the hard way.
The hard way. And let me say one thing that would even it's quite funny. So I've worked with people in some organizations where as they have Excel open, but then they have Casio calculator with them.
Yeah, especially where Excel can do other calculations for you.
So when I see it, I go like, why do you have Casio calculator with you? You already have Excel opened. It's like, no, I have trust issues.
So when the figures are mini, he's not sure.
And I'm like, the what Casio is doing is the same thing Excel is doing. So you are just finding it difficult to understand that you have a system that can just do the math for you like completely. That is what you are trying to finding it difficult to understand. And same with the manual thing, the manual automatic driven cars, right?
Yeah.
When it was coming, I think that was it. So where am I heading to? I'm heading to the fact that when we get used to the old ways of doing things, that change becomes so difficult for us as a country. So for me, I think we have to really take a stock and then really understand and know that, look, being hesitant to change also comes at a cost. It comes at a great cost that if we really sat down to take stock of that cost, I'm sure it would actually influence us to look for change like immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, because for instance, we were spending at least on up, and we use quite a number of A4 sheets, and also talk of printing, toner, and all those things. So I had to do the math and show it to my mom that this is costing you about 5% of your revenue. That 5% of your revenue, if you save it, you can buy gallons and use it to you fill conditioners with, and that could improve your profit or your margins by this amount. So we will have to really consciously sit down as a country, and even businesses, right? But yes, the government will have to, as usual. These are some of the places, the sectors in which government will have to take the lead, and I think we are doing that. I think now your passport could be delivered to you, because I did my passport in Tema.
Yeah.
I stay in Adabraka. I was moving from Adabraka to Tema. I moved like about 3 times. At the point I was like, isn't there a system where a portal where I could just go and see that, oh, my passport is ready.
Yeah.
My passport is not ready. And mind you me, all this 3 or 4 times that I had to go, I had to take leave from work. That is slowing productivity. You get it? So,
and that's even moved from the very old system where you go and queue at midnight or something like 3 a.m.
Yes.
You go and queue only to get there. When they start, right, they'll say we can only admit 50 people.
And then you are not part of that 50.
Yeah, you're not part. You have to come the
next
unfortunate
thing is, if they had counted well, you would have been 51. And just because you are 51 and they are taking 750 for the day, you have to go. So we really have to look at it, right? And look, I think I found it difficult to believe the statement of we had the men until recently. I was listening to a TV show, and I got glued to whatever the professional was saying. It made so much sense. And at the point I was asking myself, we have all these people, so why are we suffering as a country? So we have the minds, and in terms of even creating these softwares, we have the people to create these softwares. I think what we should do, and what has really shied us away in some years back, is the fact that we are always looking at one side of the population and making a conclusion. And I'll say it, I'll make it clear. So let's say with the passport thing, we're always looking at the woman or the man who cannot read and write, right? We're always looking at them and just basing our whole technological drive on them, right? But I think we should try and move away or look at it on a holistic spectrum. That will help, because one of the things that we are blessed with as a country is the high youthful population we have. And I usually use social media as an example. Right now, our mothers and fathers are on TikTok more than us.
That's what TikTok there belongs to them.
Great. Now, how did your mother or your father, not necessarily mother and father, but the population that we said did not know how to read and write, and for that reason, we based a technological drive on them, and we didn't encourage a change in probably moving from a paper system to a paperless system. We based our change on them. Now, these same people have been able to learn how to log in to. They've been able to learn how to log into TikTok. Now they've been able to learn how to use TikTok. They log in when you are there or not. You get it. So I think we'll have to look at it holistically rather than just basing it on a group of people, because as a country we've done quite significant investment in education over the period, and we one of the ways we benefit from this is driving this technological changes, right? So if, for instance, you have a household, at least I believe, given free education and the drive we've had for education over the period, are we trying to tell ourselves that as a country we still have households, right, who lack at least one or two people with the understanding, or one or two people who are literate in that house, to say that, okay, if there's a passport system, right, and then you have to log everything manual on an app, check your progress or whether your passport is ready or not. If there's a system like that, and are we trying to say that over the years, with all the investments we've done in education, we still have households who do not have at least one or two literates who can say that, okay, we are doing a passport for our mom, okay, Kojo or Kwame, who recently completed SHS, will not be able to take mom through the process online. You get it? Because that is why we did that massive investment in education over the period. So we should be able to, I believe it's time to harness those gains. So when we are driving some of these technological changes, right, we should go all out and be massive on it. It will come with its challenges from the onset. For example, also away from the passport office, the recent AI dynamics at the port. I know I'm privy to challenges, and I appreciate the challenges that various participants in the space have noted over the period. However, you see the considerable amount of gains is made to government. I think data as it stands is showing about $3 million daily compared to the old system.
Okay.
You get it? So, but before it came, it faced challenges, and then participants were against it and everything. But I think there have been considerable deliberation and stakeholder engagement, and some of these challenges are being addressed. But the bottom line is, it was implemented to give us a particular gain, and then I think it's been able to achieve that to some extent. We didn't know the numbers from the onset, but at least $300 million daily is quite significant shore up in terms of revenue. Yes, I think Nigeria also is doing similar, and as at 5 months, the government has been able to exceed its revenue target. So technology, I would say, is one aspect that we shouldn't take for granted as a country in terms of standing out and being competitive, right? As a country, our neighbors are doing it. SSA countries like Morocco, Rwanda, and the likes are doing it, right? Morocco is leveraging technology to improve its manufacturing. As we speak, Morocco's exports are well diversified to the point that it can boast of at least 40 billion annually in terms of export from manufacturing.
Right.
Meanwhile, our export from even our raw gold and the likes are not even amounting to such figure. You get it? So technology is a great side that we really have to look at. So I really welcome the way government is very interested in the AI talk,
AI initiatives,
and is in a way joining private sector players to lead the charge. I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Right. I've been joined online by John Che, a financial analyst. Mr. Che, good morning.
Good morning, and I hope you are doing well. I'm sorry today I couldn't join on studio. I had a small emergency, but after I've listened to my colleague, and I think he is expressing very good points this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. He was expressing his thoughts on technology, how we can leverage on technology to build a globally competitive and inclusive economy. Do you have any words on that?
Yes. I think one major issue we need to appreciate is that, I mean, the world has moved on to digital revolution. In areas of industrialization, I mean, we didn't do much, and we are still lagging behind in a whole lot of things. But the world has moved on, and I think, and at this moment, we are going to that digital revolution. I think we can't be left behind, and it is important that, I mean, we implement policies that, I mean, in terms of the digital adoption, it covers, in fact, to the poorest person in the village. Okay, there are a lot of, I mean, even issues with our network coverage around Ghana, even Accra here, people complain about network challenges and a whole lot of things. And for technology to thrive, I mean, to also experience its benefit, it is important that, I mean, we resolve these network challenges. And it's important that, I mean, our government do a lot of investment, especially in the rural, telephony things that they were doing, where they were making sure that every part of this country get easy access to network. And then the cost of it is also important, because these are the major things that drive technology. If you are in a village and you don't have access to a good network, you can't really take advantage. You want to digitalize almost everything, agriculture, want to digitize, industrialization, a whole lot of things. It is important that, I mean, we work on our network. I think we have still not arrived yet. There are a lot of, when it rains, we are facing a lot of challenges with our network. In fact, even when people have had an encounter where, I mean, when it even come to payment platforms, when the weather is, no good, people really struggle through these things. And I believe that, I mean, government needs to do a lot of investment in that arena, where, I mean, even if you're in the typical village, maybe in the northern region, upper east, upper west, wherever you find yourself, you can easily have access to, I mean, network, and then you can leverage on this current technological progress. Okay, so I support my colleague. I think he has mentioned a lot of things, comparing different countries, how
Yeah.
they are doing it, and it's important that, I mean, we also, I mean, take it to the villages. I mean, so that everybody, is part of this digital revolution, then we can benefit significantly from it.
Right. So, still looking on how to build a globally competitive and inclusive economy. Let's look at leadership. Do you think leadership has any role to play in this?
Yes, so me personally, I believe that everything is about leadership. I mean, we can look at a lot of countries that, I mean, show us the way that indeed leadership is everything. Leadership, I always say, in relation to progress, leadership is everything. Okay, because, I mean, as far as followers are concerned, it's what you do that we follow. I mean, if you, I mean, the leadership of this country are not, putting the right, measures. They are not encouraging us enough. They are not, I mean, pushing us to do more. I don't think, I mean, we the followers will just wake up one day and just do things. And there are a lot of examples in different countries that shows that everything is about leadership. You can talk about Singapore leadership. You can talk about Malaysia leadership. And in fact, you see, when you even look at, I mean, the West, you realize that if you go to the typical people, you see certain behaviors and you clearly know that it is about leadership transforming those countries, because you realize that ordinary people are sometimes even doing worse things than we, the developing countries. You hear about certain things, I mean, that they are doing, and you wonder, but these people are people with so much respect. How much more are they engaged in some of, I mean, trivial things, fighting over unnecessary, a whole lot of things. But they have the right leadership. So no matter what the followers are doing, you could still see the leadership, I mean, trying to shape whatever they do in order to get the right results. So me personally, I believe leadership is everything. If our leadership wants certain progress, I mean, it can be done. Do you get it? It's all about, I mean, trying to, I mean, motivate the citizens. I mean, showing the sacrifices. I mean, you are telling us, oh, things are hard, but we see you doing things differently. I don't think people believe that things are hard. And I think it was witnessed in the past government. You said, oh, things are hard. You know, If things are hard, we expect maybe a serious cut in government expenditure. We want to see a serious cut in maybe government workers' salary. I mean, I'm talking about the top people's salary. If you're not witnessing all these things, you can't convince anybody that things are hard, so we need to, I mean, sacrifice. Okay, so for me, everything and it boils down to leadership. Whatever you want to achieve, for example, if maybe you want to do a lot of, I mean, we want to improve agriculture, industrialization, and we see, let's say, our president into serious farming. We see our ministers, our MPs into serious farming. Like everybody will be, I mean, encouraged to also do same, right? And so it is all about, I mean, showing the way that indeed this can be done. And you must start from the top. You do it and others also follow. And whatever, I mean, you want to see, you must, I mean, lead for us to know that indeed you are serious about what you want the country to achieve. If you are not saying that clearly, and you know, everybody will also relax, and then things will just go the way it is.
All right, let me turn to Mark Jordan in studio. Same question on leadership. Do you think that leadership has any role to play in us building this globally competitive economy?
Yes, leadership has a significant role to play. And for me, leadership, I'll look at leadership not only, I think my colleague has done justice to leadership at the top, right? But I'll look at intrinsic leadership. What I do as a person when no one is watching, you know. I was with someone recently, and then we are taking some snacks. So we had the leftovers, the rubbers with us, and then I just had to fold my what could go in my pocket, place it in my pocket. What couldn't? I just held it. I just realized I would go to a point no one was there, and then the person dropped. I was like, "Why have you dropped it?" And then he goes like, "Oh, but say we have it, like it will just go in the gutter and then." And I'm like,
that's creating a bigger problem.
But you were part of the people complaining about flood recently, and these are the things that caused the flood, you know. So yes, leadership at the top, he's mentioned it, but we are ourselves as a people, we really have to own up, you know, own our space. Because I was watching the news recently, and then I think a woman was lamenting on how cameras should be placed at vantage points so that we can see people littering around and then arrest them. They pay a fine and the likes. And I'm like, you see, sometimes we just say, oh, government need to do this, government need to do that, forgetting that government will need money to do it. If we start charging you a tax to create, to place CCTV camera at almost like vantage places around gutters just to catch them, the people who are placing rubbish or dumping refuse in the gut. Look, it will come at a cost. Mind you, it's going to rain. They will become faulty. We need maintenance. We are going to use your tax to do that. So how about we ourselves? Do we really need cameras at vantage points to really stop us from littering those gutters and the like? So government or leadership in terms of governance has a major role to play, but I will never relegate the intrinsic one that comes from us individuals, as individuals, in order to drive economic growth, right? You know, you have to be at work at 8, but just because you know your boss will not be there, you go at 11, or you know you have to close at 4, but then because a number of the backlog that we have in the public sector is as a result of these things. The number of delays we have in the public sector is as a result
people to work are not working.
People, exactly.
People go for a funeral on a week, they come to work around 1.
Exactly.
By 4,
so you see considerable rise in our wage bill, but then you don't see the ripple impact in terms of efficiency from the public sector.
The work coming out.
You get it. And look, you don't see the harm it's causing until you sit down to take stock of it and realize our wage bill is at least over 9 billion annually. And if you are not making considerable gains from over 9 billion annually. This same 9 billion could do other things, but we are paying people to work, and if they are not working, it becomes a challenge. So I'll say that yes, governance he's mentioned, but as individuals, we also have a role to play. Recently, I visited my dad last week, and he's around Blue Skies, right? There's an estate in the Westmont estate. So close to us, I know was kind of a water body. It's a developing, is a new site. So, but then there's clear demarcations and stuff. So that's what we are building with. People are building with in the area. Then I see this, what used to be a water way filled with sand and rock, and building a construction project is already
started.
And
they block the water.
yes, and now the waterway has the water has to now find a new way.
It will always find
And
a
it's
new
now
way.
in the middle of like the road where we use. It's eroding the road gradually. So gradually people will not be able to use that particular road. Right. And I'm like, this is going to be the cost. It will make access to the area difficult. These drivers coming to drop people, these taxi drivers, will now have to increase their fares. So who are we really hurting, or who?
And that's just the interest of one person, or just a small group of people.
Exactly. So yes, leadership at the top will have to take drastic measures in terms of demolishing or stopping some of these work. However, that individual building it must take personal leadership to know that what you are doing will cause harm not to only you, but also to others. You get it? And for me, that is true leadership. And so because before I point us as whoever is the president and minister and governors, I first like find a way to ask myself, are you doing the right thing? So I think that individual leadership, we really do not have it as a people. And I think it's one thing that we have to look at. It will change, it will turn around so many things for us as a country. So for me, it's a plea to all of us out there that we really look at our individual leadership as well. It will help. Yeah.
Right. Let me turn again to Mr. Che. Now, still on building a globally competitive and inclusive economy, let's look at our resource management, our natural resource management. What can we do? We have all the resources we can think about, but it looks like still we are not there yet. From where you said, Mr. Che. I'm sorry, Mr. Che. Is it possible to turn down your gadget? It looks
yes,
like
I
you're
can
getting
hear you.
feedback.
Okay, sure. Sorry.
Right, thank you. So the question is, what can we do with our natural resources to help put our country on that competitive map?
Okay, thank you. You see, I think if you look at, our resource management, I think the major issue has to deal with, local ownership, or let's say government ownership. I think I've been looking at, other countries, how they go about, their resources, exploitation and development. And I think if you go to Saudi Arabia, if you go to Qatar, if you go to UAE, the countries that are doing massive, you realize that most of their resources are actually owned by the government. So it looks like government, find a way to attract the needed investment. But when it comes to the actual investment, you see government companies, running these companies. For example, Saudi Arabia has something called Aramco Oil, which is owned by the state, and they are basically the company exploiting all their oil resources and making lot of dividend for the country, including even investing in big teams. And I'm sure you hear of big investment, Manchester City, a whole lot of things. Their public, investment fund is growing massively, all because they decided that when it comes to our resources development and exploitation, we ourselves will take the lead. Now, one thing I'm realizing in Ghana, for example, is that most of our resources that we boast of, most of them are basically foreign owned. Do you get it? So when it comes to even the oil exploration and development, you see a lot of foreign companies, running, that major area. If you look at even the mining sector, the same. If you look at the telecommunication sector, look at how much MTN is making in terms of profit. It's also a foreign-owned company. So you see that the major areas of our economy where we ourselves can take advantage of, explore the resources and develop it ourselves. Look at the cocoa sector. Cocoa, we have been, running cocoa board for so many years. But you look at the financial arrangement that we use for, our cocoa production. Up till now, we are not really seeing massive, development of our cocoa. Still, is the raw beans. We have cocoa processing company. We have not really seen much from them. We have produce buying company. They are even no more in existence. We have, so you could see that even the areas that we are trying to even take over, we are also mismanaging when it comes to the exploration and the development. So personally, I feel the way we have gone about our resource, utilization has not been the best, and that is why we are not really getting massive benefit from it. Do you get it? If so, sometimes I ask myself, why is it not the case that if you look at all the spending, we hear a lot of big contracts, billions of cedis. Why are we not doing these investments in these critical areas that directly, bring us, profit than to sign contract to do revenue, how do you call it? Revenue. Oh, this thing SMA was involved in. We will sign some big contract, then we are just, looking at the end, seeing, oh, taxes. But why are we not spending such huge, let's say, revenue monitoring and all that? Why are we not spending so much money in direct agriculture, in direct, exploration of our mineral resources and developing, our cocoa sector? Processing our cocoa, gold, we are processing a lot. Why are we not, doing that massive investment there? And we are seeing just serious, big investment in areas that do not directly bring us, revenue. And this has always been my question as far as resource exploration and development is concerned in this country. Okay, it is important that maybe we strategically, especially when it comes to our budget for every year, we strategically allocate, certain capital investment into the exploration development of our own resources. It is very critical. It is that kind of investment that will bring massive development into this country. Assuming maybe government was the one owning Goldfield, I'm not sure. People have been complaining that, oh, if you go to Takwa, you are not seeing any development there. Because, the exploration is done by a private person. The person will do it and take his money and pay his due taxes and move away. But assume it was government that knows that I'm getting a lot. Here's the one doing this, at Takwa, knowing that I'm getting a lot from Takwa. There will be that consciousness to develop that city because they are giving you a lot of revenue, which maybe you can decide to allocate a percentage to develop that city. So until we move away from
But
just,
Mr. Che, if we look at
attracting
it,
foreign.
if we look at it from a very a realist perspective, do you think the government of this country can have the wherewithal to do this resource management?
Oh yes. So you see, so let's be typical about how is the Saudi Arabia people doing it? How is UAE doing it? How is there are a lot of countries that have shown that if government is serious with the right leadership, with the right structures put in place, the assuming maybe government decides that I'm doing direct investment and employs maybe private management. Assume maybe because public, we believe that there's a lot of government interference and a whole lot of things. So it will create different problems for us. So for this one, I'm doing the investment, but I want a private person, or let's say the private sector, to manage it. So let's say it's not really like, the Ghana typical PPP arrangement has also its own problems. But let's say like, okay, Ghana, we have seen some companies doing so well, And now government want to go directly into it, but want to be managed by maybe these people who have that track record of making it in this sector. So you provide the money, and then you get returns on the money. Do you get? So you provide like the way we are going about gold. You see that now Bank of Ghana gives gold to Gold Board. Gold Board now, I mean, also gives it to their people. I mean, their the value chain, and they buy the gold, bring it. So you see, why can't we do the same for those critical sectors of our economy that really bring massive flows? You see, one thing that we don't know is that, you see, most of the critical sectors that bring a lot of money, because they are foreign owned, they end up, I mean, at the end of the year, sending the money back to their country. For example, MTN, at the end of the year, they have to repatriate the profit back. I mean, if you also look at Talo Oil, at the end of the year, they have to repatriate. So it's like you can see serious, I mean, money flows happening, but we are not seeing the direct impact on the citizens, all because most of these companies that are exploring our oil, they are foreign based, and at the end of the year, they repatriate the money back to their countries. So at the end of the day, you are not able to retain enough to ensure massive development, and then you end up always borrowing, because and people could see, oh, we have big export numbers. Why are we still borrowing? They don't understand, because that big export numbers that you are seeing, most of them are repatriated back to the the foreign investors, and these are the things we really need to, I mean, solve. If you don't do that, we can, we got lithium, we are getting this, anyway, oil came. When oil came, we said oil is going to change the dynamics, we are going to see serious development. What happened to the oil? The oil is being owned by foreign investors. So we just get about maybe 5% royalty. And then look at the situation, I mean, carefully, and you understand where I'm coming from. Like you have oil production in this country, and the only thing we get is 5% royalty. And at the end of the day, maybe if you do some carry interest and the rest, then maybe we get about additional 15%. And then if they make profit, then you charge them tax. So the whole value chain, look at what you are getting. You are, and then, when you are reporting your exports, you will report based on the whole oil exports, not what you are getting. So we are seeing that, okay, at the end of the year, we exported $10 billion worth of oil, but Ghana is getting just 5%, 10% out of that amount. The rest of the money is repatriated back to the country or the foreign investors. And that is my major concern that I'm raising, that until we ourselves find a way to own our resources, whether we are doing it with local companies, local private companies, or government is taking that initiative, that, I mean, now we want to, for example, you see, when we raise bonds, let's be a bit practical. When we are issuing bond, we issue bond for typical expenses. Why can't we issue bond to go into gold production as a country? And I'm sure people know the track record. People know the track record of Ghana. When it comes to cocoa, they know the track record. When it comes to gold, assuming we are floating bond to go directly into gold production, to go directly into cocoa processing, don't you think we will get a lot of foreign investors bringing their money? What is stopping us from doing that? Are you getting it? So the critical areas that we can even get more investment flows, we are not, I mean, taking advantage of it, and we are just, Eurobond and all those things we have been issuing. Ask yourself, do you know what I've been using all those Eurobond that is creating a lot of problems for us for? We are always using to service loans. How do you, so, and when you use something to service loans, you don't get any returns. You are even paying more interest. You are just restructuring your debt, restructuring. Why can't we issue specific bonds for specific, value added, I mean, products like gold, like cocoa, like this lithium that we want to even go into? Otherwise, you will continue to discover new resources all every time, but we are not really going to see massive development that comes as a result of these findings. So it's important. That's why I'm bringing up, because personally, I've been thinking about it like since 2014. I've been thinking about, why are we not going directly into some of these things to retain much money in this country and use it for development? That has been my major question. And when I see government issuing bond for this, for that, for this, for that, now you see, recently, I don't know, they now want to issue bond to finance our cocoa. Very good step. And I'm very sure you see how people will subscribe. If it works, let's move on to do that same thing for gold. Let's do that thing for timber. All the resources, let's do specific. Like every critical sector, we are issuing specific bonds that will be, patronized by Ghanaians. And you see the money flows that will happen. So I'm very excited. We are starting from cocoa. We need to move on. When this is successful, we move on to all the other resources and we will start our own exploration. That is where the development that we are looking for, we will start seeing.
Intriguing. Intriguing. I mean, those are some passionate thoughts you have shared there. Let me turn to Mike Jordan on the resource management. That's, our bigger, you listed different resources we have. Even you spoke of our labor. What can we do to harness these resources we have so that our economy can be competitive globally?
Okay, so I think for instance, the labor side, right? You have to. When labor is idle, you definitely not reap the benefit from it. You have to put it to use. So we have to create intentional avenues where these labor can be used, right? And create the right avenues where they are not just in use, but they are in use at the right places, right, and the right sectors in order to drive growth for us. That's on that side. Now, in terms of the natural resources, right, I think we can, from all what my colleague Mr. Che has mentioned, we can actually. And for me, the typical example could be what we've done recently in showing up the what we received, the 5% to 12%. That's over twice, right? So if you were able to do 12%, what stops you from doing 25? You know, I hope that we get to that point. But yet again, I can understand why. I think the foundation wasn't laid right. So it has made it difficult to unwind all these wrong that was done in the past. I say that for a reason. Right now, you rely considerably on these sectors in terms of government revenues, right? Now, if you are going to kick out the private sector and then you go in there, you don't have the full resource to, should I say cash? Because that's it. You don't have that full scale amount to go in there into that private sector, right? So what I think we should do progressively, I'm looking at it from all what John has mentioned, progressively is, can we now have key milestone for us as a country that by, let's say, 5 years from now, we should be harnessing at least 25% of the benefit, right? Now, with that benefit we are getting, or that, let's say, right now, the 12% benefit we are getting, how do we even use it? That's it. Because, look, if we're using the benefit, we're using what we're having, well, I'm sure by now we should be able to control significant stake in that sector. It's because we've not been using it well. We are not using it well because, you see, politics is not helping us as a people. We
Do you mean party politics?
Yes, party politics is not helping us as a people, because at every election, when we are going into election, someone has to make a promise. We just vote on promises as a people, and that's not helping us. That's forcing these politicians. Sometimes they know really well that this tax handle that I am going to take off, there's going to be a struggle, right? But then they have to. Now, with the bond stuff that Chase mentioned, it's difficult. It's been difficult for them to do, because already you've taken out some tax handles. You need to borrow to cover that expenditure already. Now, where you don't have another space to go and borrow again and say you are going to go into like a long-term project, like the mining sector or the extractives, right? It's difficult. So we will have to.
And even a long-term project, that government is not assured of that longevity.
Exactly.
So he knows he has just 4 years. So if he's going to a project, let's say 30 years or 20 or 10-year project, he may start and not finish.
Exactly. So it is something we really have to look at as a country, right? That if Party A is doing this, do we just accord? Do we? So I think what we do here is whoever commissions it is the person that takes the applaud. That is why if I'm going to do it and we're going to harness benefits in 10 years, then I'm sorry, I'm not going to touch it, because I know that 10 years time I'm not going to be in power.
Yeah.
And then it's going to even give more hands to another successive government. And I don't blame them. It still comes to our mindset, what we vote for or how we vote. I was telling someone that these flood issues we are seeing, I'm not surprised, because the 2024 election, no politician mentioned anything about drainage system. I stand to be corrected. So if we are facing it, it tells how relegated that issue is. So that is why
where our priorities are.
Exactly.
It looks like now we are even accepting it as normal.
Exactly.
And when it rains, it will happen.
Exactly. So it's going to be difficult. So it's going to be difficult if you want to just do it in a year or 12 months.
But on this long-term strategies, is that not the reason why we had the NDP, like the National Development Planning Commission, so that they could facilitate those, because they are there in perpetuity, so that they could facilitate and have like a blueprint on how it should go. Let's say maybe in these next 10 years, we're going to focus on these industries or these sectors. So the government, you are only just following their blueprint.
We have them. We are paying them. They have allocation, I'm sure, from the budget each year. But do we really see the work? And even if they are doing the work, and I'm sure they are doing the work, I remember I knew someone working there, very hardworking person. If they are doing the work, is the politician really willing to follow the plan that is laid out?
Yeah.
Right? And if the politician is not willing, who does the politician account to? At the end of the day, the politician accounts to you and I, at least every 4 years, right? So what do we base, or what do we look at to cast our votes? For me, I say it's a major thing that we should look at. I don't want to go into some of the promises, but I don't think as a country where like you should be promising very basic things, even as like washrooms or place of convenience.
Yeah.
You are going to vote for someone to be in power for the next 4 years, and place of convenience is the thing you are looking at. Then I'm sorry. Because look, if you don't take time, there comes to a point you even have what to eat for you to even excrete it. You see, so we should really set our priorities right, and that will help us. I was going to give, like, in my view, a progressive step, right? It will be difficult to do all these things in the next 12 months, but progressively, if we can say that set milestone, like I think right now we are benefiting 12%, and maybe the carriage interest and stuff comes in to shore it up later. But can we now set another step that in the next, let's say, 10 years, we want to take it from 12% to 20%? The private foreign guy in there is not going to be happy. So it means setting that priority or setting that milestone means you're also making preparations to cover or capture or cover that space with investment when that private foreign guy walks away and is not happy with the policy. Because if we are really going to drive change, we should understand that most of the policy, even with the 12% that was recently rolled out, we are told how they had like pushbacks from foreign nationals and diplomats, right? But thankfully we were able to push it through. So we should be able to set out those milestones for ourselves and then watch it closely, so that, look, if it's time to cast our vote, we can then say that, look, we had this priority, this milestone as a country in the next 10 years. We know that if we are looking at it in the next 10 years to move it from 12 to, let's say, 22, that means we are looking at 10. So at least on average 1% each year, right? I can now look at you and say that, what did you really do in the sector? If you see everything you've done, and then I say at the end of the day, what did we get as a country? And you can't really put it on paper. Then it becomes a challenge. I'll give an example with the US and this company, Intel.
Okay.
So when Trump came, I think they realized that most Taiwan has taken a chunk of the market, so they had to quickly act fast in order to save the industry. You get it?
Yeah.
So what happened was that I think they laid some platform for the company, and then they had a 10% stake. In government took a 10% stake in the country, in the company, right? Now, since Trump took office to now, just that strategy has yielded the country in excess of about $600 billion. This is less than 5 years, right? And what they do, government came in there, make sure, used government machinery to set the platform so that they moved most of the chip manufacturing from Taiwan to the US. That also helped the company's value to improve. And right now, the 10% stake that government has is worth over $600 billion. You get it?
Yeah.
So these are conscious things that we can do as a country. And you see, the thing about us is that we have the agencies, we have the institutions, and we are paying them, and they are not, like, we are not seeing the benefit. We have the petroleum hub. We have the authority, the regulator, the authority that oversees upstream, the Ghana Petroleum Commission also.
Yeah, the Petroleum Commission.
Yes. So we have the fund that oversees income from these resources. MIF, right? How is funds managed at MIF? If MIF funds are sitting in T-bills, if MIF funds are sitting in, I'm not saying that is the case. Like, I'm saying if they are sitting in T-bills and bonds, then I'm sorry, like, we are not really harnessing potentials. With those gains, we should be like strategically and progressively acquiring stake in these upstream players. Yes, that's what I would recommend for us to do as a country. Yeah.
Right. Let me ask you. I would go to Che later. Maybe my last set of questions. Mark Jordan, if all we have said, if all has been said and done, what will we see in this country for us to say that indeed now our economy is globally competitive?
So I think if all is said and done, you have first of all, even from the agricultural side, you have a country that I think right now the song that you keep hearing is food security. If all is said and done in the agricultural space, you go towards something we call food sovereignty, where you can grow and feed yourself, and to some extent feed others, export it, right? And the extractive sector, as we've mentioned, when it's all is said and done, you are going to increase your stake in there, and then with the gains you make from there, it comes to complement your tax revenue, right? So you increase your revenues as a government or as a country, and then you won't have to rely so much on borrowing to fund your expenditure as a government, right? If all is said and done in the manufacturing space, we'll be able to improve the industrial sector to the point that we become highly efficient in terms of the labor we use in there, and that will be able to help us drive down unemployment rate. You get it. So for me, I would say that prioritizing economic growth and efficiency is very important, and then I recommend the government to stay glued to the overall programs and objectives that will help us achieve high competitiveness. And lastly, when all is really achieved well, we will attract the right investors in the right sectors in the economy. And that also help us show up our foreign direct investment as a country. There was this thing on my mind. For instance, even we didn't touch on this much, but even how the legal space, right? We have to do much work there, like how our cases, because that's a curative measure for any foreign investor. If I'm coming in and okay, things go wrong, how are the appeal processes and how
dispute resolution?
Resolution. How is the processes like? Is it cumbersome, that are very costly, that will, later it will frustrate me and I have to leave my funds? Recently we had a case, Ghana. We weren't happy with the party issue. Look at how fast the process was. It was so fast. Can it same be said of Ghana when other foreign national comes and then they have to go through similar processes? That's what every foreign investor is looking at. So that is it. And I believe when all is said and done, we should be able to see these aforementioned stuff. Yeah.
Right. Let me take from Mr. Che. So after all has been said and done, if what will we see in our economy for us to know that indeed now our economy has become globally competitive?
Yes, thank you. I think my colleague has mentioned a lot of things, but personally, we need to see serious employment. I mean, employment is still a problem. I mean, for us, if you look at our unemployment rate, is still high. So once we are seeing, I mean, people are getting jobs, not just getting jobs, but I mean, getting jobs that whatever skills they have match to. We see our salaries, I mean, adjusting upwards, because currently, if you look at our average salary, it's very terrible. Okay, so once we see our salaries adjusting upwards, once we are seeing inflation well controlled, we are not seeing that double numbers inflation. Our inflation is still the single numbers, maybe below 5%. Our lending rate very low. You see industrial people now starting a lot of new businesses. I think Statistical Service has this survey that they do. I mean, if you see the numbers increasing significantly and seeing our city very stabilized, I mean, no pressure again, no serious intervention from the central bank. And we are seeing that, I mean, our city is becoming strong. We are seeing that, I mean, countries are, witnessing, you see, most often when a country economy is doing very well, you see even the foreign media now turning, they are not just the local media, but the foreign media also turning their eyes. Wow, they are seeing like something massive happening in this country. And you see maybe the stock market rallying, and everywhere you are seeing that, oh, this economy, they rank economies, and your economy is now rising from where it is to a higher level. When all these things are happening, especially infrastructure, we are seeing infrastructure also developing. I mean, our roads are becoming better. These will be signs that indeed the economy has, revived and is growing. If you are not seeing, still our infrastructure in some way, our institutional problems are still there. No matter the narrative that you give out there, we're not really going to carry any information to any person. Okay, so I think as we are thinking through inclusive economy at this moment, we are thinking through how economy can be more competitive at the global stage. We must be more targeted to certain areas that we want to see improvement in the lives of the ordinary citizens, and that is everybody will testify that this government is doing well. They are seeing their life becoming better. They are seeing their children getting jobs to do. They are seeing our products everywhere in the world market. So once we are witnessing these dynamics, then clearly our economy will be touted as very competitive and doing well in the eyes of every economic analyst.
All right. While at it, your final words.
Yes, yes. So it is important that we all been saying that the economy is doing well, the economy is doing well, but a lot of people are complaining. I mean, a lot of people are still complaining, and I think it is because we government has not done much in making sure whatever is being experienced now is trickling down to the ordinary people. I always say the ordinary person is the most important factor as far as development is concerned. No matter what you are getting, the numbers you are achieving, if the ordinary people are not directly benefit from it in terms of jobs, in terms of increased salary, in terms of better infrastructure, in terms of this whole flooding issue curtailed, you can't really say the economy is in a good shape and as well. So it is important that we take the right steps to get the the good economic numbers we are getting into the ordinary person's pocket and into the ordinary person's day life in terms of everything that he enjoys. And when we get to that point, that's where the whole country will rise up to say, kudos to the government. We have not gotten there yet.
Not gotten there yet, but we believe one day we'll get there. Mark Jordan, your final words.
Thank you. I think on the final side, what I would say is that we now have a platform. We say we are doing a resetting as a country. So let's leverage this opportunity to, really influence and cause structural changes that would save us from coming back to these same issues year after year. The issue of high inflation, high interest rates, and very high currency volatility. So I think we are on track in terms of gaining some of these structural changes. So we hope for the best, and we see how it all unfolds in terms of numbers in the coming quarters. Yeah.
Indeed, we're hoping for the best, and we want to see how it's going to unfold in terms of the numbers. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your insightful insights you have shared with us. And I was joined today by Mark Jordan Sikanate, who's a senior research associate with Loris Africa, and John Che, who is a financial analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and for your contributions to how Ghana can build a globally competitive and inclusive economy. We all do believe that one day Ghana can rise, but it's going to rise with a lot of intentionality and a lot of effort and commitment from our end, which today our guests have given us very good insight on how we can go about it. And especially from the little things we are not considering, like even showing up on time or providing leadership from our own small space, very critical to building our economy. And thank you all very much for spending your Saturday morning with us by joining us with Ear Eye. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to coming your way again next week. Until next week, do that which Ghana will be proud of you, and do that which Africa will be proud of you. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.
101.9 FM.